I'm writing down the information as to how the film was exposed and developed. Well, these were the negatives that were photographed yesterday. Top four here of the Goosenecks, the San Juan River. The bottom four were made up on top of Muley Point. In the foreground here you see some yucca. This was a normal development on Delta 100 film. This is the old truck I photographed at the Cow Canyon Trading Post, and this was a -2 development. It was a very contrasty situation, but I think I have a negative there that will print real well. This is Delta 100 also. This is an image I made of the window at Cow Canyon Trading Post, adobe and rock with some pots in the window, an old wheel. These are some images that I made up on top of Muley Point with Monument Valley back there in the background and these big massive rocks in the foreground. Here's a vertical image, somewhat the same thing. And here's four more of Monument Valley from Muley Point, and a rather close-up of some yucca.
Okay, for many years in your photography experience, you worked with color, and now you do primarily only black and white. Why the change?
I like black and white because I have control over it, the control that I just mentioned with the zone system. You don't have that control with color. The processing temperatures of color are the same. You can't vary it. You have no controls over the printing other than dodging and burning in. You have a very limited film response range, and that is even compounded by the response or the range of the papers that you use. So really the only control you have with color is selecting a good time to make the photograph when you have a very small range of tonal values, and you can take that into the darkroom and usually make a pretty good print. I find when I do color, which is not all that often now, that I do my photography early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or on cloudy days. If you go out and you do color photography one of these bright southwestern days, you're going to have extreme contrast, and in your print you're not going to have highlights and you're not going to have shadows, just a few midtones. The wind was blowing when I made this image of the yucca, and I had to time my exposures so whenever the wind would die down I could release the shutter. What I'm doing is checking to see if out of these four negatives that I got one where everything is good and sharp. My exposure time was 1 second. Now I'm going to make contact sheets. If your development and exposure were correct, you can make your contact sheets all at the same exposure time. And my exposure time for contact sheets is 12 seconds at f8. Well, I started out in black and white. For a period when I was in the commercial field, I went into color, had to. But since I've got out of the commercial field, I've gone back to black and white. And as far as I'm concerned, black and white is where photography began. And I'm just more comfortable in using it. I love doing darkroom work, and I love to have the total control over the process that you have with black and white. So for that reason, I've just pretty well given up on color. I'll usually buy one box of color paper a year, and I'll print until it's used up, and then I'll get back to serious work, black and white. Color is not a permanent process. For most of the commonly used commercial processes, 50 years is about the most you can expect from a color print. Black and white print, as I say, will last for centuries, and for that reason, black and white is preferred by the collector. Well, to make a contact is very simple. You just use a printing frame, put your piece of paper down, lay your film on top of the piece of paper, and lower the glass, snap it down into place, and make your exposure. 12 seconds. I have 4 contact sheets in this tube. The tube holds 4 8x10 pieces of paper, or one 16x20, or any combination thereof. For this I need 200, the size tube, 200 milliliters of developer. I'm going to develop it for a minute and a half. Oh, I think that's very true, and it is the reason that I do so much landscape work. But I will have to say that things have changed a lot since Henry Thoreau made that statement. The pristine landscape is becoming more and more difficult to find. Ansel Adams is noted for his big, expansive landscapes. Lots of clouds, mountains, fields, rock formations. But those situations are becoming harder and harder to find as man has made a big intrusion on the landscape. It's hard to find places without a lot of power lines. It's hard to find a clear sky. There's so much pollution in the sky, and that's even true here in the Four Corners now. The sky, certain times of the year, is all crisscrossed with contrails. I find myself in, because of this situation, I find myself taking more and more of the close-up landscape. Sometimes not more than 4 or 5 feet in front of the camera.